So here's my first question. What fraction of employees can borrow from their 401k plans, and what fraction takes advantage of these loans on the job?
Well, 401k plans, the majority of them offer loans to their employees. About 88%, in fact, of the plans make them available. About 20% of the employees, so about a fifth at any given time, would in fact avail themselves of the loans. So they're fairly widespread. Not everybody knows about them, but they are in fact available in most of the plans.
That's great. Actually, that leads me to the next question. Why do employees make these plan loans available, and who do employees often borrow from their plans? Wait a minute, that's a funky question. Did I ask that question?
So I think what we want to focus on is why employers offer the plans with loans and why employees sometimes borrow.
That's right.
And maybe I'll turn to my colleague Timothy to answer that.
So plan sponsors provide plan loans to their employees because they want to enhance plan participation rate and contribution rates, especially for those lower income employees, because those people are more liquidity constrained and they are more likely to opt out of 401k plans if they can't access to their assets when they have some emergency needs. And previous studies have found some evidence that providing 401k plan loans does increase the plan participation rate and contribution rate. And for the participants, those who are more liquidity constrained, or in other words, those with lower income, lower financial wealth, lower account balance, those people are more likely to take loans. And we also find that people who are middle-aged are more likely to take loans, probably because those people have more financial needs.
Right. How do employees typically find out about plan loans, and how can they initiate them while on the job?
Well, so I'll respond to that. I actually worked for my current employer for 15 years before I ever figured out that plan loans were available. So some employers have them but don't really advertise them. Many other companies will provide the information through brochures on the company website or as part of the 401k information.
And what can employees do to initiate them while on the job?
Well, frequently employees would talk to their human resources office, who would tell them how to go through it step by step. In many cases, there's just a button you can click on your 401k website. So it can be quite easy. It can take 3 minutes.
Now, are there any potential downsides of plan loans from the perspective of the company as well as the employees?
Timothy, why don't you take that?
Sure. For the employees, the biggest risk of taking a 401k loan is, of course, the risk of default on the loan. If a participant terminates a job with a loan outstanding, he is required to fully repay the loan within the next quarter. Otherwise, the loan is considered defaulted, and the defaulted amount is subject to income tax plus a 10% penalty tax. So depending on the defaulted amount, it could be a pretty sizable blow to the person's retirement saving. And for the employer, providing 401k plan loans increases their administrative costs in monitoring the repayment and default issues. And that's the reason why most 401k plans charge annual fees for loan-taking behaviors. And the average annual fee is around $18 per year.
Right. Now, what individual characteristics and plan features are significantly related to defaults? Do certain types of employees or other characteristics of employees that would help us predict who might default on these loans?
Those who are liquidity constrained are more likely to default on their loans. Or in other words, again, those who are lower income, those with lower account balance, those with lower financial wealth, and those with higher loan balance are more likely to default on their loans. And as for the plan feature, our biggest finding is that if a plan allowed their employees to take multiple loans, then the employees are more likely to default on their loans. To illustrate this point, the majority of the 401k plans only permits their participants to have one loan at any time. But there are also a significant amount of plans that allow the participants to have multiple loans. And we do find that people with multiple loans are much more likely to default on their loans comparing to those with only one loan outstanding.
I thought that was a very, very interesting finding. Was there anything in the literature, or is this something really new? And what implications does this have, both in terms of corporate and public policy?
Well, one suspicion that we have is that in cases where the employer permits more than one loan, people are more likely to borrow and they're more likely to have bigger account balances. But they tend not to borrow all the way up to the max. So they preserve a degree of freedom or a little bit of precautionary loan availability, if you will, in that case. The people who are exercising that kind of fine-tuning are possibly those that are very worried about not being able to pay their bills. One thing we don't yet know is whether the people who are borrowing are also the people that are maxing out on their credit cards, have problem mortgages, and so forth. We hope to be able, in our next phase of this research, to see whether the financial crisis of 2008-2009 significantly increased loan behavior and potentially defaults.
Right. So what would you recommend to employers? Should they limit the features of the loans for certain types of employees?
It really depends on what you think of 401k loans, because comparing to credit cards, 401k loans are much less expensive and are often a much better option for people to access to their credits. But on the other hand, you want 401k accounts to be mainly for retirement saving instead of consuming like a credit card. So you probably want to keep the loan feature as restrictive as possible, so that people don't use it like a credit card. Instead, they're only using it for some emergency needs. So in that case, it's probably a good idea to restrict the number of loans that could be taken by the participants.
And in order to minimize the crisis in case the employee loses their job, do you think it's worthwhile for employers to provide explicit communications about the terms of agreement, that it's not just while they're employed in the firm, but that they will have obligations beyond that?
Well, it's certainly true that more information about the loans would probably help those that are at risk of default. The downside might be that if you provide more information about the loans, more people might take them. So you have to weigh that a bit. And my sense is that, yes, having loans available, but not super easily, would probably be the best mix of policies.
That sounds great. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your study in the near future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.